Does Twitter censor the content of its users? Does it hide what it would consider inflammatory comments, whether they be social or political?
Absolutely not.
Has Twitter ever been involved in shadow banning?
We do not shadow ban according to political ideology or viewpoint or content, period.
Are we doing something according to political ideology or viewpoints? And we are not, period. We do not look at content with regards to political viewpoint or ideology.
Are you censoring people?
No.
Twitter shadow banning prominent Republicans. It's bad. Is that true?
No.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Guys, we got to discuss another bombshell. Twitter files drop, this time part 3, which in my opinion proves not only that, again, the social media big tech platform Twitter was coordinating with the government, the FBI, okay, and other entities as well. It also proves that there was overt censorship against the right and conservative points of view that was not happening to the left when we're talking about the subject of the election. Because I've been saying this for a long time, guys, that both sides can make the same claim about the election. However, the right will get censored while the left won't get censored, because by definition, only the left, Democrats, liberals, are allowed to make claims about the election. And what we're going to read here, guys, is going to be proof of what I was talking about. Like I said, man, this is kind of how it goes. When the right says something, it's a conspiracy until eventually it's proven to be a fact. When the left says something, it's a fact until it's eventually proven to be a conspiracy, right? That's just kind of how it goes. But before I get into probably what I see to be the most interesting and damning part of these new Twitter files, I want to play a clip from Fox News that's going to talk about the coordination between Twitter and the government, particularly the FBI. Take a look.
Fox News Alert, part 3 of the Twitter files, revealing executives met with the FBI and DHS on a weekly basis around the 2020 election. In a series of tweets, Matt Taibbi writes, Policy Director Nick Pickles is asked if the marketing department should say Twitter detects misinformation through human review and partnerships with outside experts. Pickles is told to say partnerships. Not sure we describe the FBI and DHS as experts, was the quote. Here to react, Harmeet Dillon, CEO of the Center for American Liberty and candidate for RNC chair. More on that in just a moment here with Harmeet. But let's start with this topic, if we might. It's great to see you this morning. Thanks for being with us. What do you take away from this coordination between the FBI and Twitter?
Well, I'm not surprised by it, because actually we filed 2 different lawsuits over the last several years over this issue of the censorship of Twitter and how Twitter's censorship doesn't line up with its own terms of service. I suspected that something was up, like many other conservative activists over time. I've also seen my engagement go up and down on a large account with several 100,000 followers, and I suspected it was because of political suppression. We learned it was true when I represented a client, Rogan O'Handley. Judicial Watch sent a Public Records Act request to the state of California and found that there are thousands of documents proving that California coordinated with Twitter and other social media companies to do exactly this. Now we've learned through Eric Schmidt's lawsuit and other AGs that the federal government coordinated as well. So from Fauci to the FBI and probably other federal agencies we don't know about yet, it is clear that this has been happening, and in my opinion as a First Amendment lawyer, it is a violation of the First Amendment for our government to collude and coordinate with private entities to suppress the speech of American citizens for political or any purposes, and it's outrageous. And so far, the courts have been resistant to allow these claims. We have one case pending in the Ninth Circuit right now after argument last week. But it is very important that all Americans realize the threat that is posed by big tech companies, which are now effectively the place that most of our discourse and our information even is received and takes place, are affecting and not just affecting and suppressing, but manipulating what we see. So we need to know more about this. There needs to be litigation. And in my opinion, there really needs to be accountability, including for these tech executives lying to Congress about what they did.
Yeah, so if you guys saw at the beginning of this video, Jack Dorsey lied to Congress about the censorship that was taking place at Twitter. Okay, he said, no, we don't censor people based off political points of view and content. It's like, no, you do, right? You lied, right? He lied to Congress. Will there be any punishment for it? I highly doubt it, right? These people are never held accountable for anything, okay? Especially when they are left-wing actors. But again, they did in fact lie, okay? Now, part of these Twitter files, part 3 that I want to get to, I really want to talk about, this right here is stunning. This should piss a lot of people off. If I was Trump this morning, I would be heated, right? I would be losing my mind if I was Trump this morning, because this right here is blatant election interference. It just is. And again, it shows you how two sides of the coin can make the exact same claims, but yet one side gets treated differently than the other one, because obviously the actors that are censoring and determining which content is good and which content is not, they are left-wing activists. So in regards to what we're about to read here, the FBI, it seems to me that their main focus in regards to censorship were claims about the election, specifically mail-in balloting, right? So I just want you guys to keep in mind as we kind of read this here. Quote, examining the entire election enforcement slack, we didn't see one reference to moderation requests from the Trump campaign, the Trump White House, or Republicans generally. We looked, they may exist. We were told they do. However, they were absent here, Taibbi wrote. Okay, so Taibbi seems to be addressing something that people on the left have been screaming in response to people on the right saying, look, we have proof that the Biden campaign was basically trying to pressure Twitter to censor tweets that don't fit their agenda. And they would scream, well, the president of the United States did it too. However, they didn't drop any evidence of that, right? We actually have evidence, screenshots of the Biden campaign making these requests. We don't have anything of that nature from Trump. It seems to me that we don't have anything because there's no concrete proof that they actually did that. At least that's what it seems like from what Taibbi is writing here. Okay, he may just be referencing maybe this specific batch of Twitter files, but again, they haven't dropped anything like they dropped with the Biden administration or Biden campaign to actually prove that the Trump White House was making these types of requests. Taibbi then turned to an October 2020 tweet made by former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, who joked that he voted with his mail-in ballot and then voted the ballots of my deceased parents and grandparents. They vote just like me. This led to internal discussions with one Twitter employee saying, quote, I agree it's a joke, but he's also literally admitted in a tweet a crime. Yeah, so that's the same thing Sunny Holston did, right? Sunny Holston literally did that on national television. And nothing happened to her, right? The group declares Huck's an edge case, and though one notes, quote, we don't make exceptions for jokes or satire, they ultimately decide to leave him be because we poked enough bears, Taibbi reported. Quote, could still mislead people, the humor-averse group declares before moving on from Huckabee. Roth suggests moderation, even in this absurd case, could depend on whether or not the joke results in confusion. This seemingly silly case actually foreshadows serious later issues. Taibbi reported that Twitter employees often expand criteria to subjective issues like intent. Yes, a video is authentic, but why is it shown? Orientation, was a banned tweet shown to condemn or support? Or reception, did a joke cause confusion? Adding, this reflex will become key in J6. I definitely want to know about the J6 stuff, because the censorship that happened after J6 was ridiculous, right? It was ridiculous. And I'm personally a victim of it, okay? We'll talk more about it when the J6 stuff actually comes out, because again, this stuff was happening at all the big tech platforms. He then highlighted an October 2020 tweet Trump made declaring, quote, in response to a local report of Ohio where nearly 50,000 voters received the wrong ballot. Now, guys, for YouTube moderation purposes, right? Because again, we're subject to the big tech censors here. All elections are 100% free and fair, okay? And any claims to the contrary are untrue, okay? Right? So I got to make that disclaimer here just in case any YouTube moderators get confused, okay? I have to, basically do that, right, in order to keep the video up and basically say that any of these Trump tweets that I'm reading here about the election, that they're not true. Okay, this is, again, what I have to do for YouTube. So let's read more here. Twitter employees were preparing to slap a, quote, mail-in voting is safe label on Trump's tweet, but ultimately refrained after realizing the events took place and was factually accurate. Internal communication show. Yeah, so they was ready to try to censor Trump, right? Until they realized, at least what he was referencing, okay, about the mail-in ballot thing in Ohio was actually true. Just days before the election, a tweet Trump made that read big problems and discrepancies with mail-in ballots all over the USA was visibility filtered so that no one could like or share the tweet. Here, senior execs didn't appear to have a particular violation, but still worked fast to make sure a fairly anodyne Trump tweet couldn't be replied to, shared, or liked, Taibbi wrote. Very well done on speed. Roth commended his staff for acting quickly on the Trump tweet. So what they did is that they basically censored Trump's tweet. Okay, they visibility filtered Trump's tweet, even though he broke no rules, right? There was no actual violation, but they did it simply because it was Trump making these claims, right? And they don't like Trump. Trump bad, right? So we're actually going to get into proof of this in a little bit. 1 second. Actor James Wood, who had a tweet flagged by the DNC as revealed in the first batch of the Twitter files pertaining to Hunter Biden, resurfaced in the third batch, this time for a tweet angrily reacting to the warning label Twitter slapped on the Trump tweet. Twitter employees discuss punishing Woods and suggest they hit him hard on future video with firmer biases. So basically, they were going to retaliate against James Wood for calling out the overt censorship that they were doing to Trump, even though Trump did not break any rules. Taibbi then pivoted to another tweet made by Representative Jody Hice, Republican of Georgia, which was hit with a stay informed label after writing, say no to big tech censorship. Mail ballots are more prone to fraud than in-person balloting. It's just common sense. Twitter decided to go with soft intervention with Roth concerned about Wawa censorship backlash, according to release discussions. Quote, meanwhile, there are multiple instances of involving pro-Biden tweets warning Trump may try to steal the election that got surfaced only to be approved by senior executives. This one, they decide, just, quote, expresses concern that mail ballots might not make it in on time, Taibbi reported. The tweet, written by blue check Twitter user Elijah Daniel, read, quote, they're going to try to steal the election. You have 1 week. If you haven't voted yet, don't mail, drop it off, or vote early. Yeah. So you have somebody here literally telling people, hey, don't mail in and vote, right? Because the Republicans are going to try to steal the election. And the Twitter moderators decided that, hey, you know what? Because it comes from a Democrat, it's cool, right? Because it comes from a blue check liberal, because it's pro-Biden, it's cool, right? It's cool. They make the exact same claim, right? It don't matter. They're cool because they're liberal, the Democrats. Absolutely amazing stuff. Again, this is what I'm talking about, guys. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the overt bias here, right? Again, it's not about facts. It's not about election integrity. It's not about any of that. It's about pushing a left-wing agenda. Democrats can make whatever claims they want about election because, again, if it was about election integrity, right, if it was about, oh, you know, democracy, all that stuff, like, they will be going after the Democrats for going 4 years making claims about Trump not being legitimately elected, saying that Russia stole the 2016 election away from Hillary Clinton. They started all that, right? But again, they're allowed to say that. It's not dangerous when they say it, even though there's violence that has happened because of these claims they made. Totally fine. But Trump makes claims, right? All of a sudden, it's the end of the world. Amazing. Taibbi revealed that the hashtag, quote, steal our votes, which referred to Trump and the conservative-leaning Supreme Court with the addition of Justice Amy Coney Barrett would steal the election, was approved by Twitter employees since it was, quote, understandable. Wow. Wow. In another example, an October 2020 tweet from former Attorney General Eric Holder claimed the Postal Service was being deliberately crippled by the Trump administration. It was initially hit with a warning label, which Roth asked to reverse. Yeah, that guy Roth, who clearly is another Trumper, right? He has Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, he was not going to let his political bias get in the way of these decisions. This is what they told us. until we got the evidence, right? To the contrary. According to documents in December 2020, following Trump's defeat in the presidential election, Twitter rolled out a new deamplification tool that would be paired with a label to the president's claims about the election being stolen. Quote, some executives want to use the new deamplification tool to silently limit Trump's reach more right away, Taibbi wrote, noting they wanted to suppress a Trump tweet from December 10th. However, in the end, the team had to use older, less aggressive labeling tools, at least for that day, until the L3 entities went live the following morning. Quote, the significance is that it shows that Twitter in 2020 at least was deploying a vast range of visible and invisible tools to rein in Trump's engagement long before J6. The ban will come after other avenues are exhausted, Taibbi tweeted. In Twitter docs, executives frequently referred to bots. Put a bot on that. A bot is just an automated heuristic moderation tool. It can be anything, anytime a person in Brazil uses green and blob in the same sentence, action might be taken. He highlighted an example where Twitter moderators added a bot to a Trump claim made in Breitbart, which would be invisibly watching both Trump and Breitbart. Wow. Taibbi took time to explain what certain key terms Twitter employees use in its censorship practices. To bounce, for example, meant to give a Twitter account a timeout, which usually lasted 12 hours. Intertensional means putting physical label atop a tweet so it cannot be seen. PII, which stands for public interest, interstitial. Interstitial is an interstitial applied for public interest reasons. Proactive V refers to proactive visibility filtering. Quote, this is all necessary background at J6. Before the riots, the company was engaged in an inherently insane, impossible project trying to create an ever-expanding, ostensibly rational set of rules to regulate every conceivable speech situation that might arise between humans, Taibbi wrote. This project was preposterous, yet its leaders were unable to see this, having become infected with groupthink, coming to believe sincerely that it was Twitter's responsibility to control as much as possible what people could talk about, how often, and with whom. Yeah, again, these guys think that they are the arbiters of truth, basically. Taibbi shed light on the panic that erupted internally on January 6th. In one exchange, Roth is shown executing the bounce of Trump's account. Quote, this theme of policy perhaps being stressed by queries from communication executives who themselves have to answer the public's questions occasionally appears, Taibbi wrote. The first company-wide email from GAD on January 6th announced that 3 Trump tweets had been bounced, but more importantly, signaled a determination to use legit violations as a guide for any possible permanent suspension. A screenshot of an exchange reacting lividly to a Trump tweet telling his supporters go home with love and peace. What the actual F1 employee reacted, sorry, I actually got emotionally angry seeing that. Turns out I'm not a full robot. Who knew? Quote, it's guts wrenching. Another reply, he's a horrible human being. A screenshot shared by Roth showed that Trump was hit with a ton of duplicate bots. Yeah, so these people are freaking out over Trump telling his supporters to go home, right? To go home. I mean, come on, bro. Come on. This is how crazy this is, guys. But again, the overall takeaway is this. The whole system, the media, big tech, the government, they're all stacked against conservatives, right? This is what we're dealing with here, guys. Yesterday, I literally did a story about how NBC basically edited their website in order to go along with the Biden administration's narrative about the Brittany Griner release, right? In which the truth is that they had a choice between Paul Whelan and Brittany Griner, and Biden chose Brittany Griner for woke points. NBC initially reported that, and then they retracted it, right? They retracted it. Well, why they retract it? Well, because it didn't go along with the administration's narrative. Again, this is what we're dealing with, guys. These people are on the side of the Democrats, and they are literally allowing their political bias to dictate what is presented as truth, what is censored, what is not censored, what is allowed and what is not allowed. This is what we're dealing with here, guys. Again, it's absolutely insane. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.